she said that he transformed before her eyes at the school. So the school he went to was a school called LIFE, all capital letters, spelling life, of course. JJ had autism, and the school specialized in supporting children like him. Margaret Travion was one of his teachers, and she told CBS News, she said, "I literally remember coming into the classroom in the beginning and him just being very closed up, and then just watching him grow, watching him come into himself. It was wonderful, and it was just the beginning." And then she says, "I get so angry because he had so much potential and so much possibility in his life, and he had so much love." So Tylee Ryan was 17 years old, and her older brother, Colby Ryan, described her as feisty and funny with a dry sense of humor, also saying that she was very strong and sweet and was growing into her own kind of as an adult. Her best friend, Wisio, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, or if it's Baisha, Baisia, said that Tylee took beautiful pictures and that they would often go to the beach and just take pictures and capture certain moments. She said that Tylee was very clever and always liked, she was always very witty, and she was quoted as saying, "There were times when I would just die laughing." Baisha also said that JJ and Tylee had an unbreakable bond. This is a quote from her. Tylee was very protective over JJ. She was kind of like another mother to him. I just love how she would play with him and always have a really good time with him. And I really love JJ. He's the sweetest soul I've ever met. JJ and Tylee's grandparents and extended family knew that something was seriously wrong by November 2019 because they had witnessed the transformation of their mother, Lori Vallow, especially since her estranged husband, Charles Vallow, had been killed at the hand of Lori's brother. That sounds very convoluted, but we will get to it, I promise. And after meeting Chad Daybell, before meeting Chad, Lori Vallow had not really been able to settle down in one place or with one husband. She married for the first time at 19. It was her high school boyfriend, a man named Nelson Yanes. But the marriage ended after divorce, and they did not have any children in that marriage. In 1995, she married William Lagioia, Lagioia, Lagioia. That marriage ended in divorce, and they had one son together named Colby Ryan. About 5 Lori had a really good friend named April Raymond. April told CBS News that Lori seemed very patient and loving with JJ. But around 2017, Lori became absolutely obsessed with a series of books written by Chad Daybell. And that's kind of when their lives started to collide. Chad didn't know who Lori was yet, but he would find out. The series of books was called Standing in Holy Places, and a summary of the first book is as follows. In the near future, Dad and Emma North and their children live in a United States that is growing increasingly wicked. The Norths and their extended family notice that many Latter-day Saints are being deceived by alluring temptations, and they wonder how much longer the Lord will allow American society to continue its downward spiral. Then comes an invitation from the church's leaders for the saints to gather together. This invitation isn't well accepted, and it's even openly mocked, but those faithful to the church who trust in the Lord soon find themselves accomplishing monumental tasks. Join these humble yet heroic saints as they embark on an unprecedented journey to build New Jerusalem. So this series of books was basically about the apocalypse or the end of days or doomsday or what have you. And a lot of the books involved like biochemical warfare or climate change, ending the world or something along those lines. And friends and family noticed, wow, she was reading those books. She started to change, and her relationship with her children started to shift a little bit, so I'm not sure if she was communicating with Chad during the time that she was reading the books. But let me tell you a little bit about Chad. So, he is a Mormon novelist who has written more than 25 apocalyptic and LDS church novels, as well as non-fiction books for youths. His website claims that many of the characters in his books are based on people in his own family. In 2017, he did publish an autobiography in which he said that he's had multiple near-death experiences, and he lives with one foot in the spirit world. I found a blog post from his website, and I read that his website had been taken down, but I was able to access it. Just to like give you a little hint into what he was like. So this is a blog post from March 7th, 2017, which is around when Lori started to read his books as well. He says, here's an update on my writing projects. I'm close to finishing Reclaiming Liberty, but as I explained several months ago, 2 key events must happen before it is released. The U.S. presidential election and a major earthquake in the western United States. One down, one to go. The specific details of the earthquake are essential to the backstories of some new characters, so I must wait before releasing the book. If the earthquake doesn't come for a while, I'm perfectly fine with that as well. Meanwhile, I have felt prompted to release a short autobiography entitled Living on the Edge of Heaven that discusses my 2 near-death experiences and my interactions with relatives on the other side of the veil. I hope you'll was 17 when he had his first near-death experience while cliff jumping. He claims that it was then that he crossed over into another dimension, and that's what gave him the ability to see darkness and light in other people. I'll get into that a little further down the line. He married Tammy Daybell in 1990. He graduated from Brigham Young University in 1992 with a BA in journalism, so nothing more dangerous than a extremist writer, in my opinion. Tammy and Chad had 5 children over the course of their marriage. They were active in the Mormon Church as well. In 2004, they started a publishing company together called Spring Creek Books, which he used to publish his own books. Maybe because no one else would publish them. So let's stop there for a second and do a little cult checklist here. So we have number 1, him claiming to be able to communicate with people across the veil or on the other side of life, or people who are dead. Him claiming to see things that other people cannot see. The end, predicting the end of the world. Check, check, check. Having a place to recruit people or followers, LDS Church. And then having his own printing press publication pipeline. Check. Alright, so now that we're clear on that, let's go back to Lori Vallow's timeline. In 2016, Lori and Charles moved the family back to Arizona from Hawaii. And in 2018, Lori and a friend of hers decided to go to a lecture that Chad was giving in Utah at an LDS church. After meeting each other, they started speaking daily through email and phone. Lori even had a separate phone that she used to contact him, I'm assuming secretly. And I get that people have affairs. It's not really an uncommon thing. It's not a nice thing, but it's a thing that happens. But this is not your normal affair. Things start to get really weird from here. So Chad started to discuss his beliefs with Lori. Some of the tamer beliefs were of prepping for the apocalypse or the end of days, which is how Chad became so popular in fringe groups of the LDS Church. He was involved with a group called Preparing a People, whose mission was to prepare the people of the earth for the second coming of Jesus Christ. Preparing a People says that it's not a group and it's not a cult or something that people join, but it's an educational service that puts on lecture events. And that was a statement that was released after all of this crap hit the fan with Lori and Chad. They also said, we do not share any of Chad Daybell or Lori Vallow's beliefs if they're contrary to Christian principles of honesty, integrity, and truth. Blah, blah, blah. So, he was closely affiliated to Preparing a People. He also had ties with a group called Vallow, AVOW. It was a preparedness, or it is a preparedness group that stands for Another Voice of Warning. It claims not to be directly associated with the LDS Church, but the website that I went to literally is ldsavow.com. So I'm not sure how that works, but get a copy of their preparedness manual and forums and live chat rooms. I really am curious about what the forums say, but you had to sign up, and I'm just like not ready to be a part of that email list. Sorry, guys. Someday. So, those were just a couple of groups that Chad was affiliated with, and he started to share that affiliation with Lori. Some of the more extreme beliefs that he had was being able to see lightness and darkness in people, which revealed details about their past lives. So he said that he could see people's past lives. He believed that he had 30 past lives, and that Lori had 20 past lives, and that they had been married before in their past lives, which made it okay that they were secretly seeing each other and that they became romantic while they were married to other people. He had a rubric or a grading system that he would use to figure out if people were more light or more dark, or if they were turning into a zombie. And a zombie was defined as an individual whose moral spirit had left their body, and their body would now be the host of another spirit. The new spirit is dark and puts the person into a limbo that can only be released once the person's physical body is destroyed or killed. According to Melanie Gibb, who was a close friend of Lori's, who we will hear from later on as well, Lori and Chad believed that they had lived multiple past lives, like I said. She also said that they created a portal in Lori's closet so that they could commune with the spirit world beyond the veil together. The two of them became romantically and physically intimate, and in early 2019, Charles, Lori's then husband, filed for divorce after a series of bizarre events and behaviors and claims that Lori was making. Charles said that he was afraid that he would end up dead, or that Lori would have him killed, because before he went on a business trip to Texas, she developed delusions that she was a godlike figure who was assigned to carry out the work of the 144,000 at Christ's second coming, which was supposed to happen in July 2020. Maybe it did. The 144,000 are, if I understand this correctly, the people that will be saved or will go to heaven or will survive the end of days, and Lori claimed to know who those people were, and she claimed that she could see that in people, whether or not they would be part of that group or if they were not part of that group. She basically said that she was going to lead the chosen people to heaven, and if Charles got in her way, then she would destroy him financially and possibly physically. The business trip that he was going on was very important, and he had to go on it. Otherwise, he would have stayed and tried to get Lori some help, which he did end up trying to get her some help at the beginning of 2019. But the police and the outpatient clinic or inpatient clinic, the mental health services center, cleared her and said that she was fine to just go about her life despite these things that Charles was telling them. So while he was out of town on this trip, she canceled his Melanie said that Lori believed that Charles was now a zombie. She believed that Charles had a different soul inside of him, that his soul had left, and the new soul that took over was named Ned Snyder. So Ned Snyder's soul now lived inside Charles Vallow, and he was a zombie, and he was dark energy. So, like I said, in 2019, early 2019, he tried to get Lori some help. It failed, but he did end up changing his life insurance policy from the money going to Lori to the money going to his sister, JJ's biological grandmother, Kay Woodcock, because he was scared for his life, obviously. In the summer of 2019, Lori's brother, Alex Cox, shot Charles and killed him. The story that Alex and Lori told the police: Charles came over to Lori's rental property or rental home in Chandler, Arizona, to pick up JJ and to take him to school. Alex was there, and Tylee was there, as well as Lori. So Alex was kind of described as Lori's protector. He had always kind of been, a protective older brother, but was physically intimidating as well. So, according to Alex and Lori, Charles got, not violent, but he got confrontational. And apparently Tylee came out of her room with a baseball bat. Charles allegedly took the bat from Tylee and came after Alex with it. So Alex got a gun and shot Charles, and then Charles died. So Charles is dead now. And he was afraid he was going to die, and now he's dead. Another kind of strange part, it's already very strange, but Lori, first of all, when she went to the police, she did not seem, sorry, this is my cat, she did not seem upset at all. And she told JJ's school that Charles had killed himself, which is totally wrong. And she told her oldest son that Charles had had a heart attack. So she told 3 different stories about Charles's death, and somehow was not investigated, or I don't know, maybe there was an ongoing investigation into Charles's death, but it didn't get very far because Alex Cox, who killed Charles, is dead now too. We'll get to that. Sorry, Sheila is out of control right now. Okay. So on September 1st, 2019, Lori and the kids moved to Idaho. So this is after Charles has died. They've decided to move to Idaho a couple months later. Not they, Lori decided to move to Idaho. She took JJ and Tylee with her. Chad was still married to Tammy at this point. And shortly after they moved to Idaho, the extended family stopped hearing from JJ and Tylee. And when I talk about the extended family, I'm mostly talking about the grandparents, so Kay Woodcock, Charles' sister. So the children were last seen with their uncle, Alex Cox, at Yellowstone National Park on September 8th, with photos showing Tylee with JJ, Lori, and Alex Cox. Around this time, Melanie Gibb, she said that he said he loved Satan and that he had an increased vocabulary now, which meant to her that someone else lived inside of him. Melanie and her boyfriend said they saw JJ on the night of September 22nd when Cox took him to his apartment. I didn't mention this, but Alex Cox also moved to Idaho. And apparently they saw Cox and JJ together. When Melanie woke up the next morning, they asked Lori where JJ was, and she said that Alex Cox had taken the child because he was acting like a zombie and had been crawling on the kitchen cabinetry. So, later that morning, cell phone tracking placed Cox's phone at Daybell's property. So I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit, but I have to jump around. They did not find the remains of JJ and Tylee until the summer of 2020, the summer of this year. And the way that they found the remains was by pinging Alex's cell phone. But we'll get back to that. So, Tammy, Chad's wife, died in her sleep of natural causes, quote unquote. If you can't see my fingers, I'm making quotations. In October 2019. So, Lori's ex-husband is now dead. Chad's wife is now dead. When authorities figured out that there was something fishy going on, they did exhume her body, and that investigation is still ongoing. So, at the urging of Kate Woodcock, JJ's grandmother, authorities finally went to check on the children because it was very strange for the extended family in Arizona not to hear from these kids. They were in touch all the time. So the police came to check, and Lori lied about where they were. At first, she said they were in Arizona. But then she asked her friend Melanie to make up a lie about how JJ was with her, and told Melanie to say that they were at a movie, that they were at Frozen, and she told Melanie to take pictures of like random kids running around so that the police would think that JJ was with her. Melanie agreed to do all of this, and she did. She lied to the police. But finally, December 6th, she came forward saying that Chad and Lori had asked her to do this because her conscience was just eating her up. And when the police came back to check on the children again, Lori and Chad were in Hawaii. While they were in Hawaii, I believe, because they left for Hawaii in November, Alex Cox ended up dying of a blood clot in his lungs. So now, Alex Cox, the man who killed Charles Vallow, is now dead. And he was basically the last person who was seen with JJ. On January 25th, 2020, police finally located Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, having the time of their lives in Hawaii on some kind of honeymoon. Police served Lori Vallow with a court order demanding that they bring the children to the Idaho Department of Health and Welfare by January 30th, and Vallow missed the deadline. About a month later, on February 20th, Lori was finally extradited to Idaho when she failed to bring the kids forward to prove that they were safe, she was charged with 2 felony counts of desertion and non-support of dependent children, resisting or obstructing officers, criminal solicitation to commit a crime, contempt of court, and willful disobedience of court process or order. But still, the police didn't know where the children were. No one knew where the children were. Well, someone knew where the children were. On June 10th, 2020, the remains of JJ and Tylee were found on Chad Daybell's property. They were found, like I mentioned earlier, by pinging Lori's brother's phone, Alex Cox's phone. They found that in September 2019. He was at their apartment 3 times in Idaho on the 6th, the 9th, the 23rd, and the 25th, also after their trip to Yellowstone. At around 2 a.m. on September 9th, Cox's phone was pinged at Lori's apartment in Rexburg, where she lived with Tylee and JJ. It was the only time that month that Cox was at the apartment in the middle of the night, and his phone was later tracked to Daybell's property, where he stayed for 2.5 hours, and that is where the children's remains were found. When they executed their search warrant in early June at Daybell's property, they found disturbed topsoil near sites where Cox's phone had been located. They found, so it was basically like a pet cemetery. They found a couple of the family's old pets buried there, and then as they dug deeper, they found the remains of Tylee and JJ, and I'm not going to go into the, like, what their remains were like. But it's in many articles. Sorry, I had trouble getting that out. So apparently, that same morning, September 23rd, where they had pinged Cox's phone, Daybell had texted Tammy, his wife, who was alive then, saying that he lit a fire with debris in the backyard, and that he had spotted a raccoon on the property and shot it and buried it in the family pet cemetery. So, in my mind, I'm thinking probably that's when they killed the kids, and he was trying to cover up what had happened, and maybe he had to kill Tammy because maybe she knew something or she figured something out, or even if she didn't, he just wanted to be with Lori. So Lori was charged with 2 felony counts of conspiracy to destroy, alter, or conceal evidence. East Idaho News reported that in September of last year, Chad sent text messages in an effort to conceal Tylee's body, lied to police in November about his relationship with Vallow, and asked a friend in November not to cooperate with police in the search for JJ. Just recently, it was ruled that their cases would be combined, so they would be tried together. And there's an ongoing separate investigation into Tammy Daybell's death. There are some theories, of course, that Lori had a hand in murdering Charles, which I completely agree with. I think that tracks. And there are also ideas out there that she felt like she had to kill Tylee because Tylee was there that day and she saw Alex Cox shoot Chad. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. Shoot he's dead, so they're afraid that Lori and Chad will walk. Not necessarily be free, they will go to jail for concealing the bodies or concealing evidence, but that they won't be charged for murder. I hope that's not the case because they seem very guilty to me. But of course, all are innocent until proven guilty in this fine country, the United States of America. So I have some other things concerning this case. Some other kind of interviews and a letter from Melanie. She wrote a letter to the LDS community to tell them to stop believing in Chad's preaching. And I'm going to read that and some of the interviews on my Patreon. I'll probably actually film that right now. But otherwise, if you want to check that out, the link is in my description. I do 4 videos a month. 2 of them at least are true crime related. I'll probably end up doing more like 3. Anyway, Sheila's making some very strange noises, so I'm going to leave you with that. I hope you have a great morning, afternoon, or evening.